Vietnam veterans, you know, because of the fact that it's an entirely different scene.
Right.
Because they're in their 70s.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And
so tell me about, again, I know that I've confused a lot of stories from your service.
yeah.
So tell me about, yesterday you said you enlisted. And how old were you when you enlisted?
19.
And was
What
everybody
happened?
around enlisting?
What's that?
Was everybody around enlisting?
Well, mostly drafts. The draft was running wild. The draft started, you know, prior to our entry into the war, because of the fact that it was almost imminent that we would eventually end up in a conflict. And there were an awful lot of people that had joined the Eagle Squadron, which was Americans flying for Britain.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I went to school, you know, in college in Canada. Canada was in the war already. But just to give you the whole history of it, December 7, 1941, I worked the year at Kodak before I raised enough money to go to college. Okay, well then December 7, 1941, 6 months after I graduated from high school, the war started. And with another fellow, Georgie Baird, we went down, we wanted to get into the Air Corps. That was pilots training. We went in. Well, I washed out because of my eyes. Georgie went on to be a pilot. But I went on to school. Then the draft boards, they're starting to bother Bernie. Bernie's married already with a couple of kids. So I said, hey, right, I'm going to enlist right now, because if one brother was in, you know, would help.
Does it?
Well, what happened when I get down there, I sold my books, sold my clothes out in Windsor, and I got home, and I went down and enlisted. And then to enlist, they said, well, you had to signify intent to enlist prior to July, because the draft boards weren't getting in their quota.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know anything. I said, I did show intent to enlist. I said, you can have it in your records. December of 1941, they looked at me, oh yeah, you tried to get in pilot training, that counts.
So they would rather say you were drafted than you enlisted, so they could meet their quotas.
No, the draft boards were fighting for guys in the neighborhood. We got to get our quota.
Okay, right, yeah. Yeah.
So at any rate, it was Billy Mitchell Day. Billy was a great Air Corps hero. They took us to the courthouse, had all the celebrities swore us in, we get back. Then the sergeant says, okay, now your draft board releases. I said, what do you mean? I don't know what a draft board. You had to get the release from the draft board. We qualified you that you could enlist, but you had to get the release. Well, they sent me home. Actually, it took me about 5 days. And Uncle Pat Boland, who was a politician, he finally got a release from me. Had I gone with that group, I'd be dead, because those guys that went there went to the Pacific, and I knew several of them enlisted with me. They were dead.
Yeah.
Just, you know, the way things were.
Yeah,
you'll even I told about that on that video that you got there. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then the rest of the history, and my whole history is on there.
Yeah.
From there up until the time I got married.
Yeah. Give me the high point. So where were you? Did you go directly to Greenland?
Well, went to Fort Niagara. That was the they called it reception center. That's where all new guys went in. I enlisted November 29th. They shipped out of there day after Christmas to Miami Beach for basic training. Yeah, and that's on them too. The whole
right.
sequence.
Right.
From there, Colorado State College of Education for training in engineering and operations, and then Kearns, Utah for infantry training. They wanted us to know how to fight. Then to Greenland. Then when you're supposed to be there 18 months, I was there probably 21 months. Couldn't get out.
And you were running logistics, you said, essentially for the quarters?
Called ability. I was in charge of all the transient troops that were coming through. Get 100 B-17s in at a time. They had to be fed, housed, briefed for their next stops. That's what I was in charge of. That's on there too.
Right. Right. And then you came home when?
Huh?
You came home when?
November 29th, 1945. I enlisted November 29th, 1942. That's when it was official. November 29th, 1945.
I thought that's the day you got married.
May 29th.
Oh, that's right, yeah. November 29th is Mom's birthday.
Yes, and that's the day
Yes.
I went in and the day I came out.
Right, right. Yeah. And if I recall, Mom told the story that she knew that you were coming home because she got roses. Well, that's the way she tells it.
Well, I don't know whether that was that. I sent her roses. I sent her her birthday,
Oh, okay.
which was well. See, her birthday was November 29th. Then I knew I was due to come home. My 18-month
Right.
was over, and actually I came home. I arrived back in the States on the first day of February. That's when I came home. We got engaged February 14th. Asked her to marry me. She said I'd been in Greenland too long.
So you evidently did a good sales job on her to convert her.
Well, then I told her that story. She was working nights at Eastman Kodak. And I had Bill Martin's car, picked her up on Valentine's Day, drove her over to St. Paul Street, but I went by way of Conkey Avenue, pulled over, slipped the ring in her finger, looked up, there was a sign there and said, "Go slow, children ahead." There's a playground right there. Very, very prophetic.
Yes, yes. Yeah, did you just cross it out and put 7 children ahead? So then you got married in May of 46?
45.
45, yeah, 45. And
we went back up to Dowfield and Bangor until well, we left there. I brought her. I got discharged at Griffith Air Force Base, which is in Rome, New York.
right.
And I was able to get her home, take the train back, and then went through the discharge procedure.
Yeah. And you got married in 45, and then Michael was born in 47?
46.
46. He was born in 46.
He was due July 4th,
Yeah.
1946. But we moved into that Veterans Housing Project, and I had her carrying furniture, so she went into labor early. So he was born June 24th.
So he would have been 73 this year.
Yep.
Wow.
And pretty good record. We would have been married 74 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And so where were you and Mom living?
We lived on Gloucester Street, which was in the old 10th Ward. It was right off of, well, you're the only one that was born over the 10th Ward area. Driving Park Avenue, over in that next to the woods, over towards Maplewood Park. You probably wouldn't remember any of those places. But Mom and Sis had subleased from a guy who was in the service. I can't remember his name now. He was a Navy officer. They had subleased. It was the second floor of a house. Then when Sis got married, she got married on June 24th. Isn't that interesting? The year before.
Yeah.
In 1944. Because I remember I was still in Greenland. Well, then a girl from Webster. Oh God, I just told Dan Lipstein's wife about that family. Can't think of her name. But then she moved out when we came back. You know? And we lived in that apartment until Governor Thomas Dewey of the state of New York came up with veterans housing and converted School 6 into apartments. And that, believe it or not, that's where Irene Hickey, the aunt, graduated from school.
Is that the apartment where you had the refrigerator in the bathroom?
No, that was in Bangor, Dowfield. Yeah. And there was one lady that had to go through the bathroom to get to her apartment. It didn't bother her one bit what was going on or who was in there when she had to get to her apartment.
Well, it is an unusual entry, I would say. So after you got out of the service, where were you employed?
Well, the very first job I had, believe it or not, I just got rather interested in hotel. And of course, there was a Gilmore family background was in food, you know.
Right. We like to eat.
Even Dad, you know, for years he had cooked on Friday nights for fish fries and whatnot. And I took a job at the Powers Hotel. But there was absolutely no money in it, you know.
Yeah, I know.
And most of the room clerks and whatnot, they were their career.
Right.
Closed doors, no place to go.
Right.
And so then I went to work for Kodak. And stayed with Kodak. Well, let's see. Trying to think of the years. I stayed with the Kodak until I went. Well, Bob Wilson, of course, was a manager of McKesson and Robbins Liquor, and he convinced me that I should be a salesman there. But you go through the, shall we say, go through the chairs. You start off driving truck, getting to know the routes and whatnot. And then one day, Pete Dupre. Have you followed Harmonica Pete?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, he had gone to work for Prudential. He said, they need an agent. I said, so talk to him. So I'll never forget it. I pulled up off of East Avenue in a parking lot, got in the back of the truck, changed from truck driver's outfit into a suit, went in to see Frank Sestito, and he hired me on the spot.
So that was early on.
1953.
Yeah. Yeah, so you worked for Kodak essentially up until then? And liquor?
I worked for a couple of years with McKesson.
Got it.
That was good.
I didn't know those parts. I think I only knew the insurance part.
But that was good money. I made more than the salesman, you know, as a truck driver.
Yeah.
I'd leave Rochester at 6 o'clock in the morning with a load of whiskey, go all the way down as far as Corning in Elmira, New York. Get back at 2 o'clock in the morning, got paid time and a half after 5.
Nice.
Double time after midnight, and meal money.
Nice.
that's where I saved enough money to buy Argo Park. You know?
Yeah. So
then-
us and the Kennedys, money and liquor, right?
Yeah.
Always been money and liquor. How are we doing on time here?
Well, we're doing
Yeah.
okay on
Yep.
time, but I want to go in because of the fact that Dan will be
Okay.
going down.
Well, let's just do a few more minutes and then
Yeah.
we'll wrap the project. So by this time, when you started in insurance, how many kids? That was
I had 6.
55?
You were, oh, well, no.
Bill-
no,
Paul
no,
was
no,
born in
no,
56.
No. We
Oh,
we had
53.
4.
Right.
Because I started in September of 53.
Right. And then Dave was
Dave was born in
54.
October of 54. Yeah.
Paul 56 and me 58.
Yeah, because we was still in Argo Park. Then I moved to Clinton Avenue, and you were born when we were in Clinton Avenue.
Right.
58.
Right. What precipitated the move to Clinton Avenue? Just needed a bigger house?
Yeah, an upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a fun neighborhood to grow up in.
Yes, it was. And, well, my territory was right there. The first territory was, well, you know where St. Anne's,
Right.
all around that neighborhood, you know, Rochester State Hospital, Elmwood Avenue, well, all of that area.
Right.
In there, that was my first territory, and it was very good place to be. You know?
Right.
And then, of course, well, the other thing is, when did I say we moved there?
I don't remember. I was born in 58.
I had been promoted, too. See, I went for 53. I was promoted after 3 years from an agent to staff manager in 57, I think.
And then we moved to Baltimore in 65.
Yep. Day after Labor Day.
What precipitated the move? Another promotion?
Well, actually, I had left Prudential.
You were with Monarch, right?
No, for Security Mutual of New York.
Oh, right, yeah.
They got a real good offer, second line management. Well, I had left management with Prudential. I just didn't like the tone, you know, the way it was going. And their management concepts at that particular time, they were in a state of flux. I went back to being an agent, but at the same time I was teaching insurance courses. And I was approached by Security Mutual of New York. And I worked with them. And then they offered me the general agent, which is the top dog. It's Pittsburgh, Cleveland, or Baltimore. And it's funny, we'd been down here just prior to them being godparents, or David Clare. And Mom had said, boy, this would be a nice place to live.
Ah,
So that's when we decided to come down here. Then, later on, I was putting more money in than they were. I was supposed to have 7 agents, but they had all left.
oh, geez.
I didn't know that by the time I got here.
Wow.
So I had a nice suite in One Charles Center and a pretty secretary, Georgia.
Yeah.
And then we did build it up a little bit again. But again, as I say, things weren't going good. But there were several companies that were wooing me, you know, at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was teaching again. My reputation was out there. You know? And so I went with Monarch, but it was a stopgap. Good money. Because I always really wanted to go independent. But Pilot Life offered me a nice deal in full management. And that's when I moved into Towson, but with the idea that I was going to open up my own shop. And they knew it, but they needed a stopgap. They needed someone to run it. And I said, guaranteeing how long you're going to stay with you, but I'll keep your operation going, you know.
Were they the ones based in North Carolina?
Yes.
I remember you going there several times.
Yes, Greensboro.
Right. Right. And so you went independent when?
Believe it or not, we're the oldest business in downtown Jacksonville. And that was trying to put the times together. Oh God, I lose track.
Yeah.
It was probably around 1970.
Yeah, I graduated from high school from Delaney in '76, and I know you'd been doing that for a while
Yes.
at that point. Yeah, we're the longest running business owners in Fernandina.
It's interesting.
Two exceptions. And they've been there forever and ever and ever. So, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So, are you happy that you went into insurance?
Oh yeah. It's interesting. I've had people come in here and see me getting anything. Like one woman said, I'll never forget when you came up there to Jericho and you sat there and my husband was very reluctant to do anything and you really told him his responsibilities. He died 2 years later.
Yeah.
My house was paid for and my kids went to school.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Those are the rewarding things.
Well, it was certainly drilled into me from a very young age. I've never been a day in my life without insurance.
Yeah. And now I've reached the point where I don't need it.
Right.
You know?
Right. Exactly. Oh. All right. Time to wrap the interview. Anything else you'd like to
Not right
say
now.
that in? Okay.
Let's go in here.
To be continued. Thanks.